Welcome to another weekly current affairs session of environment topics powered by Amrita IAS Academy. I am 𝐂𝐨𝐲𝐯, faculty, Amrita IAS. Let's begin. Let's begin with a news from Tamil Nadu. Understanding the disappearance of Egyptian vultures in Tamil Nadu. So the news points out about a recent study highlighting the sharp decline of Egyptian vulture population in Tamil Nadu, particularly in the Moyar Valley landscape. So here we have to check out two facts about Egyptian vultures and Moyar Valley landscape. Let's see about this in detail. Egyptian vulture, the scientific name is not that important. In case you want to search about Egyptian vulture in Google, you might not get the exact details about Egyptian vulture. So you have to check out the scientific name. Scientific name might not be important for UPSC. I have given the scientific name only to understand the Egyptian vulture mentioned in the news is here, Neophron Percnopterus. Okay, so it's one of the world's smallest vulture. This is important, and it's India's smallest vulture. India's smallest vulture. It's one of the world's smallest vulture, and it's one of India's smallest vulture. So here the conservation status of Egyptian vulture is endangered. So not that there are 4 species of vulture in India whose conservation status is critically endangered. So the Egyptian vulture is not one among the critically endangered. It is endangered, and according to CITES, it is included in Appendix 2, and CMS or Bond Convention, it is included in Appendix 2 itself. And in terms of Wildlife Protection Act, it is included in the Schedule 1, which has the highest protection under the Wildlife Protection Act. So that's all about Egyptian vulture. You have to understand that Egyptian vulture, it's seen in India. We have already seen that it's seen in Tamil Nadu. But understand that it's spread throughout the Indian subcontinent. Now, even though the name is Egyptian, it's spread, the geographical spread, you can see here, it's spread across these regions, right? So in case you get a statement like Egyptian vulture is not found anywhere in India, or Egyptian vulture in India is located only in Western Ghats, you have to know that it's not true. Egyptian vulture, it's found almost throughout the Indian subcontinent, and it's spread across these localities seen in the map. Okay, shown in the map. And understand that the greatest threat of vulture species, be it any vulture species, the greatest threat for vulture in India is a drug named diclofenac. Diclofenac. UPSC has already asked about diclofenac in one of the previous year questions. Okay, so understand that diclofenac is a drug which is the main culprit of vulture deaths in India. Where is diclofenac used? Diclofenac is actually an analgesic. Diclofenac is a NSAID. What is NSAID? Non-steroid anti-inflammatory drug. So it's used as an anti-inflammatory drug in humans as well as for cattle. For the purpose of veterinary use, right now diclofenac is banned in India for veterinary use. But still, diclofenac is used illegally as a drug for veterinary as an NSAID, non-steroid anti-inflammatory drug. It is used as an analgesic anti-inflammatory drug for veterinary purpose as well. And when this cattle die, the carcasses are being eaten by the vultures, and this vulture, you know the process of bioaccumulation. So this compound of diclofenac accumulates in its body, and it causes for kidney failure, and this causes for rapid death in case of vultures, and that is the main reason why vulture population has been declining in India. And which are the other drugs which are similar to diclofenac? The other drugs being aceclofenac, ketoprofen, and nimesulide. So these are the 3 drugs which are similar to diclofenac, and these 3 drugs also cause the same effect of diclofenac. The safe alternative is a drug called meloxicam, and meloxicam is being promoted by the government, because if vulture population is lost, what happens? Vulture is actually an important scavenger species. So if the scavenger is lost, decomposition, if the carcass of the animal remains for a long time, it causes for spread of many diseases. And in India, it has been reported that wherever the vulture species has declined, the cases of rabies, the diseases like rabies has increased, and that is why vulture species, it's very important to protect vulture species in India. Okay, that's all about vulture, the Egyptian vulture. Now you have to understand about Moyar Valley, because recently in the report says the Egyptian vulture in Moyar Valley has been decreasing, right? So you have to understand where Moyar Valley is. Moyar Valley is located in Tamil Nadu, which is located in the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve region. Okay, so Moyar is the name of the river. It's Moyar Valley, right? So Moyar is the name of the river, which is actually the tributary of Bhavani. Bhavani actually flows to Kaveri. Okay, so Bhavani is the tributary of Kaveri and Moyar is the tributary of Bhavani. That's all. Okay, the ecological importance of Moyar Valley should be noted, because it is the link between Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats. It acts as a corridor between Western Ghat and Eastern Ghat. This valley acts as a corridor between Western Ghat and Eastern Ghat, and it's famous for vultures and elephants. And you have to understand that tiger, elephant and vulture are the flagship species of this Moyar Valley, and major protected area inside the Moyar Valley are Mudumalai, Bandipur, Wayanad and Satyamangalam. Mudumalai Tiger Reserve, Bandipur Tiger Reserve, Wayanad Wildlife Sanctuary and Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve. So these are the 4 regions falls under this Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve and Moyar Valley. Okay, so that's all about this news. Let's check out another news where researchers have reported the first detection of Parrot Bornavirus in India. Parrot Bornavirus 4 in India. So this is the first case of this disease being this virus being detected in India. So this Parrot Bornavirus is a highly pathogenic RNA virus. In case of virus, we can divide viruses into DNA based and RNA based. And in case of pathogenic Bornavirus, it is an RNA virus. Very, very important. Can be used as can be asked for your prelims exam. Okay. So it primarily affects parrots. Bornavirus, it primarily affects parrots, and it doesn't affect human. So you have to understand that this disease is not a zoonotic disease. That means it doesn't affect humans. Okay, the Bornavirus doesn't affect humans, and this is the first time where Bornavirus 4 species have been identified from in India, where this Bornavirus for what? Why is it important? Because this virus causes a disease called proventricular dilation disease, which attacks the nervous system of parrots and will essentially cause the death of parrots, and that is why this disease has been in news. And understand that this is a single stranded RNA virus, where till date it has not shown it has not been reported to affect humans. It is not a zoonotic disease. Okay. So that's all about this news. Let's check out the next news. So do you understand this? Do you know this person? 𝐂𝐻𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐿 IAS. 𝐂𝐻𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐿 IAS. Do you know who he is? He is the one who framed India's Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. He is the one who is famously known for framing India's Wildlife Protection Act, which is the most comprehensive act for wildlife protection in India. And why are we studying about this person? Because recently ex-forest officials, conservationists, including Prakriti Srivastava, who is an ex-IFS officer, 𝐿, who is now 88 years old, who was behind framing India's Wildlife Protection Act, has recently challenged the functioning of India's Apex Wildlife Board. Apex Wildlife Board, which was formulated as a result of Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. So we have to know why they challenge this, because what are the functions of Wildlife Board? What are the functions of Wildlife Board? India has got a National Board for Wildlife. So one of the function of Wildlife Board is to review projects for environmental clearance. Okay. So the National Board for Wildlife, which was formulated legally under Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Which was formulated legally under Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. One of the function is to review projects for environmental clearance. And recently, when we check out the clearance data, you can understand that the 97% of proposals were cleared So that means, and you have to understand that from 2014 to 2026, almost 97% of the proposals were cleared, and not only that, the petitioners. So we have seen some persons who have given petition against the working of this wildlife board, right? So these petitioners say that the full NBWL meant to meet annually. So the National Board for Wildlife was meant to meet annually, convened in 2025 after 13 years gap. That means for 13 years, the National Board for Wildlife was not convened at all. And there is another standing committee which was acting as the operational arm, actually convened and cleared all the 97 proposal, and this is one of the fact that you can use for your mains. Okay, so according to the recent petition filed in Delhi, you have to understand that the National Board for Wildlife, which was supposed to meet annually, was not convened for the last 13 years and was only convened in 2025 after a gap of 13 years, and the standing committee was actually acting as the de facto operational arm. So you have to look into the facts about National Board for Wildlife. Understand that it was constituted by Wildlife Protection Act. It was constituted by Wildlife Protection Act and was established in the year 2003 only. When the act was constituted in 1972, there was no board like National Board for Wildlife. Later in 2023 only, the National Board for Wildlife was constituted, and it replaced the earlier Indian Board for Wildlife, which was established in 1952. Okay, now who chairs the National Board for Wildlife? It's the Prime Minister of India. And you have to understand who are the members of National Board for Wildlife. The Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change act as the vice chairperson, and there are 47 members including member of parliaments and a member from NGOs and eminent ecologists. So the structure should be noted. PM is the chairperson. Vice chairperson is Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. You also have to understand that there is a standing committee of National Board for Wildlife. There is a standing committee of National Board for Wildlife. The standing committee of National Board for Wildlife is actually a smaller body within NBWL, National Board for Wildlife. There is a standing committee, and that is a smaller body which plays a critical role in granting clearance of projects that may impact wildlife habitat. Okay. So this standing committee is chaired not by the Prime Minister, it's chaired by the Union Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Union Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change chairs the standing committee of National Board for Wildlife. And the main accusation recently heard was this standing committee was doing all the work instead of the National Board for Wildlife was supposed to convene every year. Okay, but this National Board for Wildlife was not convened for the last 13 years was the accusation by the by certain people. Okay, so understand that the standing committee meets more frequently than the full NBWL, ensuring swift decision making on urgent matters. So what were the functions of NBWL? NBWL reviews projects for environmental clearance. Also, it advises on policies and measures for wildlife conservation, ensures compliance with international conventions like CITES. So recently, when in 2022, the Wildlife Protection Act was amended for the last time, and understand that India's compliance with CITES, this National Board for Wildlife ensured that the act in India, which is Wildlife Protection Act, is compliant with the CITES, and that is why we have included a separate schedule to include animals in CITES. Okay, so ensuring compliance with international convention is one of the functions of NBWL, and reviews and approves projects impacting protected area is one of the other major functions of NBWL. So that's all about NBWL. So you should be able to use this stat in your mains. So what is the effectiveness of NBWL? What are the functions of NBWL can be asked? How effective is NBWL can be asked? So you can use this stat in your mains answer. Okay. Let's move on to the next topic, which is NGT orders recovery of 2.65 crore fine from BHU for illegally cutting 33 trees. So the news says that the NGT, the National Green Tribunal, has directed the Uttar Pradesh Pollution Control Board to complete the proceedings to levy an environmental compensation of 2.65 crore on Banaras Hindu University for illegally felling of 33 trees. So, the Banaras Hindu University illegally fell 33 trees in its compound, but prior permission was not acquired, and the NGT, the National Green Tribunal, has fined them. That is the news. So, you have to know more facts about NGT, the National Green Tribunal. This National Green Tribunal was established by an act of National Green Tribunal Act in 2010. It's the specialized environmental court. It's a tribunal specialized for environmental purposes. And the principal bench is located in New Delhi, and objective is to effective and expeditious disposal of environmental cases, fast disposal of environmental cases. So, you have to basically know the jurisdiction of NGT. The jurisdiction means not all acts are coming under NGT. There are certain acts where this NGT can act as the tribunal. Okay, 6 acts you have to understand. There are 6 acts, and the 6 acts are Environmental Protection Act, Water Act, the Water Prevention and Pollution of Control Act, Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act of 1981, then Forest Conservation Act of 1980, Biological Diversity Act of 2002, and the Public Liability Insurance Act of 1991. And specifically note here that the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 is not coming under the jurisdiction of NGT. Only 6 acts are coming under the jurisdiction of NGTs, which are Environmental Protection Act, Water Act, Air Act, Forest Act, Biological Diversity Act, and Public Liability Insurance Act. The Wildlife Protection Act is not coming under the jurisdiction of NGT. Very, very important. And also understand that NGT works under the principle of natural justice. Okay, and polluter pays principle. That is why here NGT has fined the BHU, Banaras Hindu University, of 2.65 crore for felling the trees. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. 40 invasive plant behind grassland loss in one of India's first tiger reserve. So, the tiger reserve in picture here is Manas Tiger Reserve in Assam. So, here the report says that the grassland has been lost from Manas Tiger Reserve, and the culprit is 14 invasive plants. So, you just have to know some of the names, some of the plants who are responsible, who are the invasive alien species. So, you have to understand that the invasive alien species in picture are avoided by the herbivores. Okay, and that means the native plant species that the animals are dependent on have a competition with these invasive alien species, and invasive alien species actually prevails, and the native species where the herbivores are dependent on reduces in number, and that will affect the herbivore species number also. Understood? That is how the chain of the food chain will be affected. The herbivore number will be decreased because the herbivore species eat certain species, and that species is having competition with the invasive alien species, where this invasive alien species will not be eaten by this herbivore. Okay, and you have to know the names of certain invasive alien species. Some shrubs include Chromoleonia odorata, Micania micrantha, Lantana camara, Lea asiatica. Then some woody species include Bombax siaba, Dylania pendagina. Okay, so these are the certain invasive alien species. The name, just not the name of this invasive alien species, because in previous years UPSC have given certain names of invasive alien species and asked us to identify what are they. So you just have to note that they are invasive alien species. So identify or note this name of this invasive alien species which was in news recently. Okay, let's move on to another news. Milk production in Gangetic plains have nosedived due to climate change. So, impact of climate change, that is the news here. Many of the impacts of climate change you might already know. You have an awareness about climate change. So, various impacts of climate change can be asked by UPSC. So, try to include this impact in your answer. Okay. So, this article says that while climate change significantly undermines livestock productivity worldwide, a new study published in Scientific Reports has found that global warming acutely affects the dairy production across the globe south, especially the high milk production tract of Haryana. So the global warming has a really large impact on milk production in India, and recent study published in scientific reports addresses that. That's it. So what do you have to write? So impact of climate change can be asked by UPSC. So understand that one of the impacts of climate change can be the decrease in milk production, and milk production has significantly decreased in the Gangetic Plain according to a study published in scientific report. So this stat can be used for mains. Okay, so also understand that India is the world's largest milk producer. So this is the final fact that you have to understand. India is the world's largest milk producer. This fact can be utilized, can be asked for your prelims. Okay, so that's all for today. Let's see next week.
Amrita IAS Academy.